Everybody, as you log in, please make sure you add your first, last name, school, organization, institution, also what district you're a part of, and if you're certified or just a member of the organization, that'd be great. Also, a reminder, please have your cameras on. Will help us out immensely as we try to continue these sessions. And we'll get started here in a few minutes. Everybody, as you're logging in, please make sure add your first name, last name, organization, institution, also what district you are in, and if you are a certified or a member of the organization, add that as well. Also, as a reminder, please make sure everyone has their cameras on so we can help track attendance to these things. Thank you. Hey, Dale, do you know if Andy's on or getting on soon?
I do not know if he's on. I know that he's aware of it, of course.
Yeah. And Cliff just texted me he's having trouble getting on. So I'm gonna text Cliff real quick.
Okay. Waiting on a few of our panelists to join us, and we'll get started here shortly. Thanks for your patience, everybody. While you're waiting, just again, I know I sound like a broken record, but please make sure first, last name, school, institution, organization that you're from, your district. Also, if you're certified and or a member, please make sure that's listed. So it's we have the ability to extract that for attendance for everybody.
Okay. I just got updates from our two other panelists. They are just about on. Their things are updating. You know, like when you pull up your Zoom and it's like, oh wait, you haven't used me in a while. Let's update. So they're almost on. But
Thanks, Katie.
are you good if I just do my little plug for the mentorship program now while we're waiting?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. So as probably a lot of you have heard in these calls, again, sound like a broken record. We do have our mentorship program. We have quite a few partnerships this year set up, but we're always looking for more. We have a lot of mentors that didn't get a mentee this year yet. So if you are looking for a mentor or you want to be a want to be a mentor or mentee, please email me. You can email me at the mentorship email, or you can just email my school email. My school email is just katie.wimp@colostate.edu, and I can drop that in the chat. It's just a great way to network and reach, more equipment managers. It's been a pretty good program so far. And then just to kind of talk about the whole camera thing, part of the reason that we are able to get CEUs is because this is an educational engagement opportunity. So if we don't have cameras on, it's harder to justify this and say this is educational engagement activity, because you could set your phone down and walk away and not actually be part of it. And we understand that equipment is a crazy job, and I have to step out constantly. I was already had to step out once today. So even if you're multitasking or doing stuff on your computer or talking, just have your camera up. I don't care if it's the side of your face. I don't care if it's the ceiling, because I do see a couple ceilings. That's fine. Just have your camera on and try to be engaged if you can. And we love questions. So if you have questions, we come up with the panel questions, but there's way more that people want to know or can think of than that what we can think of. So drop questions in your chat or send them to Josh.
Yes, please send questions. You can start sending them right away. That really helps out as I go through. If I can pair them up with questions we already have asked, that's a big help. And like I said, last time we did this, there is no such thing as a dumb question. It's a lot of range of ability and newness and veterans here. So we're all there at one point in time. If we know the answer, we'll be able to share. So excited to get started. We'll go ahead and looks like Dale, Clifton, and Andy are all here. So let's get rolling. Real quick updates from Uncommon Sports Group. We are starting a new equipment manager book study starting January 23rd. Something new we're doing, hopefully gather more of an audience, is we're having them on Mondays and Fridays now. So we're having 2 times a week we can make it. So if you can't make a Monday, you can fill in for a Friday. This will be great. And Andrew Johnson from Houston is going to help lead this book study, which will be great. If you're unfamiliar, we provide books for free. We meet once a week via Zoom. We typically have discussion questions, those that have been a part of it. Really the main goal is just to kind of get you guys to fellowship with one another on a kind of a different level. So please reach out if you'd like to join up or visit our cleanout.org page where Clean Out for a Cause is hosted, and you can fill it out or sign up there. Great time of the year to clean out your equipment rooms, or as fall sports wind up, if you need boxes and bags. We've been getting a lot of requests, more than usual this time of year. Especially those of you that have transfer portal ins and outs, and there's a lot of stuff to clean up after that. We've got little bags to hand out to incoming coaches or incoming athletes to say, hey, get rid of all your old logo stuff. We'd love to take that on again, new and used. I can't say that enough. Another big piece, football equipment manager and student manager game ball award voting is live. In fact, today the Twitter vote. So if you visit our Twitter page, there'll be a Twitter vote available. There's 4 finalists for each category. So we have it on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and then cleanout.org. You can vote there as well. So please share that. We love to recognize people in the industry for their hard work. And lastly, if you have student managers that want to know more about our academy, kind of a professional training platform that we have via Zoom, that next group starts in January as well. So if you got student managers that want to be in the industry and kind of help along that lines, please reach out to us regarding our academy. So we talked about our CEUs. Please make sure these are on there as my last ask from everybody. And just a reminder, cameras on. That helps us out when we, like Katie said, helps us out when we discuss doing more of these in the future. It'll be a big win for us. So upcoming schedule. So we won't meet until the end of January. And we'll get into social media, which will be a fun one. Good time of the year for that. And then this schedule takes us up basically through convention, which we're all excited about, which would be great. talk about the mentor-mentee program. And without further ado, we've got our esteemed panelists today. So Matthew Sterling from Boise State's going to join us here. Clifton Perry. Sorry, Clifton, I made a mistake. You are not from Rutgers. You are from Princeton. My bad. I'm going to get fired one of these days. Andy and Dale are from ISS and joining us as well. So excited to have everybody aboard, and let's get started with some of the discussion questions here. First, kind of share, we'll go in order here. We'll share about your background in the industry, and also give the one biggest tip you can give a new person in the industry when it comes to laundry. So Dale, will start with you. Clifton, you'll be next, then we'll go Andy and Matthew. So go ahead, Dale.
Like most of you, started out as a student manager, climbed my way through the ranks, had that messed up gene in my head that really fell in love with athletic equipment. The bug bit me and I was kind of hooked. Did it at several different universities, internship in the NFL. But all those years doing it, I was always kind of drawn towards the laundry process. The one big tip that I could give any new person in the industry when it comes to laundry is, even though you're quote rivals and you play against each other a couple times a year, stay in contact with your colleagues, even if they are from a rival school, because they're your biggest asset. As most of you know, what we do, or what I guess what we do as equipment guys, we don't learn about in school. We learn about from word of mouth, exchange of information that way. So the biggest thing is just communicate with other people, because as I've said tons of times, we all do the same thing. We just have different ways of coming to getting to that end process. So just communicate with each other and never stop learning.
Thanks, Dale. Clifton?
Hi, everybody. I've a little bit different than Dale. I started out as a coach and was coaching in high school, and was the youngest guy on staff, and was told that my job was fitting people with gear. Didn't really know much about the equipment management profession. We didn't have an equipment manager at the college that I went to. And I learned a lot from Shorty down at Florida Atlantic when he was there, because my high school was near there. And he taught me about the AEMA, and I joined and started from there. So I was a high school guy, and learned a lot about it. Took an internship at Navy, did that for a year, and then I got hired here at Princeton. I will, to echo off of what Dale said, we may have different colors, but at the end of the day, we do the same job. So don't think that just because you're at another school that it's about competing and all that kind of stuff. I haven't strapped on a helmet or shoulder pads in a long time. I would advise you to learn about other sports as well. It can definitely help you down the road. Olympic sports are great things too, and great people involved there. My biggest thing for laundry tip are these things called Dobie pads. I found that these do a really good job of scrubbing in between the fabric. I haven't scrubbed these yet, even though our season's over, but you get paint on your jerseys or your pants from face masks. So a lot of times I'll just use a scalpel and gently go across this. But if I'm having any troubles, I'll use these Dobie pads. They're Scotch-Brite. You can buy them Home Depot, Lowe's, probably the grocery store too, although I've never bought them there. But I've found those to be really helpful for getting stains out, getting things out before I wash things. And we never dry our uniforms here at Princeton, so I can wash them and come back to them later if I need to get something out if I can't get it out for the game that weekend. So thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Clifton. Matt, would you mind sharing a little bit?
Yeah. So kind of like Dale, I started out as a student manager at Arizona just because I wanted to get involved. I had no idea that equipment was even a thing. And then my senior year, I moved into the equipment room. Then I got offered a GA position, and I figured I'd get a free master's while doing equipment, and then I got an NFL internship, and then full time after that, and just kind of fell into it and love it. So it's an awesome thing to be a part of. Biggest tip I'd say when it comes to laundry is never dry a stain. Once the stain's dried in, it's almost impossible to get out. So kind of like Clifton said, where he won't dry uniforms, I'll hang dry all my uniforms. If I have any stains, after that first wash, I'm treating them again before it gets dried, because once you dry it, it's almost game over.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Andy.
Hi, guys. I have pretty much like Dale and Matt. I started as a student manager at Indiana University. 4 years as a student, and then I worked there for 3 years after that as an intern, then assistant. And then 16 years ago, I started with, it was Tri-State Laundry at the time, and it has since morphed a couple other names that you might have heard of, KISS, and now Integrated Sports Specialties. Like I said, I've been with them for 16 years out here in the Midwest. My biggest tip for laundry for someone new to the industry is, if you don't know, ask. If you're young, and you've got a supervisor who's doing the same role as you, ask them how they would do it. Don't just do it on your own. If you're at a small school and you're the only equipment manager, ask your chemical vendor. Find a mentor. There are a lot of guys that out in the business that love to mentor guys. That's, either through these Zoom calls or through attending AEMA. You'll get to know some of the older guys who can mentor you, and you can call them anytime and ask for tips, or text them and ask for tips. And like everyone else said, don't dry it. Keep it moist, and that gives you a chance to get it out. Once you apply heat to it, most stains that will set those in. So
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. Jump over to our next question here. We'll come back to you, Andy, and we'll work our way back through. Clifton kind of jumped on some of the things already, which is great. What advice do you have for troubleshooting stains? I know we covered not drying, but what are some other advice that you guys can pass along for troubleshooting tough stains? Go ahead, Andy.
We like to use the Adobe pad or just a white towel to rub in a chemical. A lot of times, again, ask your laundry chemical provider which product they suggest for which stains, and then we use a white towel to slightly rub the chemical in, and then a lot of times you can let the chemical set from anywhere from an hour up to overnight and let it work. Sometimes quicker isn't always better. Sometimes you got to leave just a raw chemical on a stain a little bit longer to kind of loosen it up. And then a lot of times the next morning you can come in and hit it just again, because it should be loosened up. If you hit it, you spray it with the product and then rub it just a little bit more, and then you can rewash it on either a cold or a warm wash, and that should help start to loosen stuff. Sometimes you got to hit things 2 or 3 times, depending on how long it's been sitting or how deep the stain is.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. Matthew, what is your advice here?
A lot of times, especially with baseball laundry or anything where you have outdoor elements, we had a rinse and spin cycle that I would put everything through a rinse and spin immediately, get all that loose dirt off, and then start treating stains, because chemicals can be expensive. So I didn't want to waste chemicals on stuff that wasn't a stain if it was just loose dirt that was going to come right out. So I just do, 10-15 minute rinse and spin, then take everything out and check it. If it was a guy that didn't play, I'd put it all in the wash and just run a normal wash. If it was stains that were appearing after that rinse and spin still, then just like Andy said, I would use those chemicals. When I came here from William and Mary, where we also had ISS, and so just like both of them said, I would just call up our rep and say, hey, I have this stain, I've tried this won't come out. And he'd be like, okay, well, that's probably more this type of chemical going on, so use this instead. So just like they said, always, call your chemical reps and don't be scared to ask questions on that.
Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. Clifton?
Matt, you had to go and throw baseball in there. I mean, come on, those guys that don't play run around and then the water flips up and mud gets on the back of their pants. And you look at the guy's pants and you're like, how in the world did you get this dirty? You sat for 9 innings on the bench. Sorry, couldn't avoid the shot. I definitely, like Matt said, I mean, those kids that don't play much, a rinse and spin is an easy thing, or just throw them straight into your cold or warm wash. The ones that require more length, we have an overnight cycle that we'll set before we go. But a lot of times I'll wash them first and see if, kind of like what Matt said, see what comes out in the wash, and then go for that longer setting to try and get more out of it. And I kind of blew it earlier by saying the Adobe pads. So that's it.
Dale?
One thing I would say is wash it first and then treat it. Go ahead and throw it in the washing machine. Once you collect the stuff, I mean, what I would do is if you have more than one washer, obviously put the jerseys in one washer, put the pants in the other, and then treat it afterwards. Because I've seen people, I've seen myself before treat 50, 60 jerseys and take hours upon hours of doing that, when I could have easily thrown that in the washing machine and had the washing machine do the work, and really and truly would have only had to treat 15 or 20, that's the main thing. And another thing for troubleshooting stains, especially if you got natural surface, or just get with your turf guys, find out what they're using, what kind of fertilizer, paint, whatever, and kind of go from there. So that way, when you do call us, we can say, oh yeah, we've talked with this school or this guy that's used this kind of fertilizer, because some of the fertilizers have the dye mixed in them, that type stuff. So, I know it's kind of taboo to be friends with the turf guys, but at the same time, you need to kind of get with them to figure out what else is going on. Also, if there's anything that the athletic trainers are using, or strength staff, any of the stuff they use that may be getting on uniforms, clothes, or whatever, kind of learn from them as well.
Thanks, Dale. Had a question come in. Thought it was a really good one. Good timing here. Olympic sports, sometimes they have competition on Thursday, and you might not see them on a road game until they come back Monday. And I don't know if anybody has any issues with mold, but any advice for dealing with uniforms sitting in a bag getting moldy and kind of getting those types of things out? We'll come back to you, Dale, and work our way through.
I've seen it happen before, with a soccer team played on a Friday night in rainy, muddy conditions. And they throw their stuff in a trash bag, tie it up, and then bring it to us when they get home Sunday night. And, it's our fault that it's moldy. What we wound up doing, I mean, just we washed it as normal, and then just kind of spot treated it with our regular stuff. I mean, sometimes if it's mold, it'll come out. And Andy may correct me if I'm wrong, but mildew, if it has mildewed, it's I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's pretty doggone hard, and it takes some extra work, a lot of scrubbing. And yet again, like Andy said, spray it. And a lot of times when people treat stuff, they think they're going to spray it and it's just going to magically disappear. When you're treating that stuff, all you're really doing is loosening that fabric and working it down in there and letting it kind of get to the actual fabric itself. Don't expect it to disappear, but that's the main thing, is just, it's like normal laundry, but you got to go a few extra steps and extra elbow grease. It is a pain, I'll tell you that.
Clifton, you got any advice there?
Yeah, one of the things that we've done is we've asked our coaches not to put them in garbage bags. Just have kids put their stuff back in their own bag. The bags have venting in the side, at least most of the bags do nowadays, and it lets them breathe a little bit more. When they're contained, it becomes like a microwave, and it just, who knows what could grow in there, right? So we try to do whatever we can to separate it and then bring it together when we do the wash itself. So that's the biggest thing that we've found. And we haven't had a problem with that. I hope and pray that we don't, but I'm sure that through the professionals we know from that do this on a regular basis, that they'll be able to coach us through it. But yeah, it's not something we've really had to deal with, but I think it's because of the way that we have the kids return the stuff to us.
Awesome. Matthew, do you have any advice there?
Yeah, kind of what Clifton said. All of it goes back. We have our Nike travel bag, like a big equipment bag that has a bunch of little vents on the side of it. So they don't put it in a trash bag, they just put it back in there and then I'll disinfect the bag when it comes back. Some teams bring it back in their own travel bags that also have venting. So one thing I do, I haven't had the mold or mildew happen. What I've done is they were at the convention a few years back. The product was called Eliminator. They're like those little dry, smelly packs that you can put in your shoes or whatever, but they are also antibacterial, antifungal. So all of the student athlete travel bags, I throw one of them in there. And then I also throw one or two in our team equipment bag for like basketball where it's all in one bag. And that seems, I don't know if that's the reason I haven't had mold or mildew, but the venting combined with those packs, I've used it everywhere I've been since then.
Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. Andy, can you chime in for us?
Yeah, I'll echo what the other guy said. Airflow with uniforms. I mean, that's keep them from just sitting on top of each other. In a hot, wet environment. Either get one of the old school laundry bags, mesh laundry bags, or just a normal travel bag, and then wash it. Sometimes you'll either have to treat those spots with a little detergent, and if you have a little powder, sometimes you can kind of create a paste with that. Sometimes you got to get use a little bit more heat than you normally would on a full set of uniforms, to kind of get that stuff to break up and clean up out of there. So
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. Let's move on to our next question here. Andy, we'll come back to you. Your experience, how are you, I know we talked about airflow and things, but how are you handling road laundry?
I'm assuming we mean, if you're away with the team, how do you get the laundry done? The biggest tip I would say, communicate with the host school and see if you can, coordinate to have them do your laundry, immediately after the contest. It may cost you $100, $150. Some conferences have a set limit on how much they can charge. If you go to a place where there is no host school, you have to go out in public, to a laundromat. A lot of times those machines, they don't give you the time that you need, and you're not really able to use their full chemical set. We usually tell people, grab a mild detergent. There's several laundry chemical companies that make a packet that you can travel with to do laundry on the road. I would make sure you use cold, because you don't know what the temperature of the warm and hot water is. On occasion, if you go down south somewhere and it's early to mid-spring and things are starting to heat up, you may be asking for warm, but their warm water may come across the ceiling or something. It may be super hot, so you may get hotter water that you want, and you can potentially bleed uniforms. So I wash and hang dry, and then treat stains when you get back home. Get things as clean as you can on the road, and then you'll really go into hardcore stain treatment when you get back home and when you have all your resources.
Thanks, Andy. Go back to you, Matthew. How do you, any advice for road laundry?
Yeah, so I've seen it a bunch of different ways from being in different conferences and different schools. I kind of, being relatively new here, there wasn't a formal policy in place. So what I've kind of put in was, for when teams come here, if it's during a normal workday and we're here, happy to do it for them. We don't charge. If somebody's needing stuff, at night or on a weekend, then they'll pay. We'll have one of our student managers come in, and they'll pay that. But a lot of times, we're here on the weekends anyway, so it works out for them. We just kind of, when our director of ops or our event manager sends out the packet that talks about locker rooms, practice times and all that. It'll ask them in there, hey, if you need laundry, please let us know, a few days ahead of time. But you always get those situations like I got a text at 7:30 Saturday night from a basketball team that was here that wanted laundry done at 8 p.m. on Sunday night to be ready for Monday morning. So again, we're not competing against each other. We're all working together. So even though it's not their equipment guy asking, try to do the right thing and help out where we can. If I know our team's going on a long trip, I will, in this business, everyone either knows each other or knows somebody that knows someone. And so I'll reach out to get a contact for the equipment guy wherever we're going to play. And I'll try to set that up for our team before they get there. Because yeah, like Andy was saying, the laundromat is not the place you want. Teams doing loops are one thing, but if we're on a multi-game road trip and they're going to need to wash their uniforms, I don't want those done by a student manager at a laundromat. And then the twill gets dried and ruined, and then it's a whole nother mess. So just communicate with your counterparts and try to give as much lead time. Because again, we're all busy. So getting those last minute requests is never fun. So just try to help each other out.
Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. Clifton?
I think one of the benefits of being in the Ivy League is that we play Friday, Saturday night, back-to-back basketball games. And home team wears white on Friday night, and visiting team or home team wears dark on Saturday night. So that definitely helps out the process. So usually the only time I'm doing road laundry or having road laundry done is for spring trip for baseball or softball. And I just try to coordinate, to Matthew's point, I try to communicate something 2-3 weeks out, say, hey, this is the middle of our road trip. We'd like to have stuff done. You don't have to treat anything. You don't, kind of like what Andy was saying, just get it clean so that it's not standing in the corner by itself. And then deal with all the stains and stuff when they get back home. I think it's interesting that the cost factor involved in that, depending on where they go in the country, will depend a lot on how much it's going to cost to get that wash done for you. And sometimes it's kind of eye-opening, but it's kind of the cost of doing business sometimes. So that's what I got for you.
Thanks, Clifton. And Dale, we'll finish up with you.
One thing I recommend is find out just who will be doing that laundry when you're on the road. I've been at places before where you actually have an equipment person, a full-time equipment manager, or an actual student equipment manager that's doing the laundry that actually knows what they're doing. I've also seen it before where it's a team manager that all they're worried about is getting some of that money for doing laundry, and they're trying to get out of there as fast as possible. And they're going to run it through the washing machine one time and then dry it on high heat so they can be out of there in an hour and a half. Your stains are baked in, your twill's ruined, your heat press numbers are sticking together and everything. So when you do communicate ahead of time about reaching out to do laundry, find out just who is doing it. It may make you kind of change your mind on do you really need that laundry done? And also when you're talking to that person in advance, make sure ahead of time, hey, look, man, we don't want these dry. We want them on cold heat. I mean, or cold water. I don't want to say dumb it down, but kind of give it to them ahead of time so that when it all goes down, well, nobody told me type deal, But the main thing is, like I said, find out just who is doing the laundry to make sure they have a pretty good idea what they're doing. I've seen it before where you get loops back and they're all melted together because they blasted them on high heat for 45 minutes, So
Thanks, Dale. Real quick, anyone in the chat, Matt dropped a real good note on the antibacterial packets he was talking about. So check that out, some information. Thanks, Matt, for doing that. Also, a good question came in for Justin. And if you guys on the panel have any advice, just raise your hand. We're talking about like long baseball weekends, 4 games, talking about grass stains and dirt from some of that. How are you helping get some of those stains out, even though you might not be on the road with your team? Anybody have any experience with that?
Kind of like what Dale said, knowing who's going to do it on the road. If I know if we're going to have a long game and we got to turn around baseball uniforms on the road, it's making sure it's an equipment manager or a student equipment manager that knows what they're doing, because, you know, that's kind of when they come here and they need it done, we're going to do that same thing for them to make sure it gets out. So that's where kind of building those relationships and coordinating ahead of time, dumb it down, all step-by-step instructions. That's the biggest part. I know when I was at William and Mary, we had made, with all the other conferences, we just had a Google sheet that had the point of contact, the equipment manager for each school, this secondary, who would be the primary contact for baseball laundry, the secondary contact for baseball laundry, how much we charge for loops, how much we charge for uniforms. So again, getting those connections ahead of time, and making sure that it's somebody that knows what they're doing, that's helping you out while you're out there.
I think Clifton's point also about the contact period about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time is a big piece of advice there too. Don't do it the week of. That way, if something needs to be scheduled with the staff, that can be a huge help as well. So thanks, guys, for all the advice and stuff.
Hey, Josh, one more thing I would
Yeah.
say, if you can avoid it's a lot to ask somebody to drive to your hotel to pick that stuff up too. I mean, tell your kids, hey, bring an extra set of clothes and change right in the locker room and give them to the equipment manager. Don't make them come to the hotel. It might be 20, 25 minutes away, and that's just adding to their time. And to Dale's point, could very easily change their attitude and mindset about how they're treating your stuff. Oh, this dumb son of a gun made me drive all the way through town, 5 o'clock traffic. Forget that. Just make it as easy as possible. That person is helping you out no matter what they're charging. And you just need to be as amenable to the situation as you can, because the last thing you need is Monday morning opening up a bag and saying, what the heck happened here?
Awesome. Thanks, Clifton.
And rotate sets, what you wear on Friday, have it what you wear on Sunday. That way you don't have to have it back Friday night. You can pick it up on Saturday when you get to the field. Try to, come with a couple sets so that it doesn't have to be returned, that night.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. Kind of bleeds into the next question a little bit. Any other advice real quick? I know we covered this pretty good, but any other advice with working with other schools on laundry on the road? Talk about spreadsheets, timing of things. Any other advice there? No, I think we covered it pretty good. We'll jump into the next question. Outside of chemicals, I like Clifton's already got an assortment of tools in front of them, but outside of chemicals, what are your must-haves for the laundry room? We'll start with Dale and work our way through.
A bunch of old rags and such, a good counter space to spread the stuff out on. I've seen laundry rooms that have, a wide open counter you could lay an entire jersey or a pair of pants on. And I've seen it where you've got something pretty much no bigger than a clipboard. A good deep utility type sink. A lot of laundry rooms have a hand washing sink, which will suffice, but at the same time, sometimes you need to really have a deep basin, like I said, utility type sink. You can really get stuff down into to wash, and kind of wring it out real good or whatever. You put me on the spot asking me this way. I'm sure there's all kind of things I'm trying to think of. I just can't come up with them now, but those are the main ones. Like I said, I've been in equipment rooms that we recently built that all of a sudden there's just a little bitty sink and no counter space and stuff like that. A good area to hang dry stuff. As we've said multiple times, don't dry anything. So you're going to need a spot you can hang it out. that you can hang it up and have airflow really good so it can dry properly.
Airflow is a great one. Go ahead, Clifton.
Well, let me rephrase that. I've been in places where we put like a fan in the corner, mounted up on the wall in the corner that you can kind of create a wind tunnel. Because yet again, as we've said sometimes with regionals and basketball tournaments and stuff like that, you don't want to dry stuff, but you can make that wind tunnel go and have stuff done in a couple hours versus overnight. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Thanks, Dale. Clifton?
Yeah, I think, Dale, to your point, the only thing I was really gonna add to what you were saying was a fan, to just blow on them. I know if it's a real quick turnaround, like a really late night, they played at 9 o'clock at night kind of thing, and they're turning around and playing first thing in the morning, like you see with softball a lot of times. There's times where we'll put no heat and just let them roll around in the dryer some. Not what I like to do, because I like to have time to let it do it the old fashioned way, but there's times where you have to speed things up. But otherwise, I mean, Dale, you really hit it on the head as far as counter space, a deep basin type sink, to be able to get things and be able to scrub things. So I think you got it.
Awesome. Matthew, you got anything to add?
Yeah, so going off of like that deep basin utility sink, if you don't have one or you don't have the budget for one, what I've done in the past is a big 35-gallon 45-gallon trash can, and we would just connect a hose on the bottom of the sink faucet and fill that up with whatever chemicals or just water, and use that to soak it. Just if you don't have a sink, a trash can works great for that also. Probably seems like a simple basic thing, but gloves, whether it's rubber gloves for working with chemicals, or it could be just nitrile, latex, whatever gloves just for doing laundry. I mean, there's blood, crap, sweat, there's every type of bodily fluid you're going to encounter, and you don't want to be grabbing that bare hands. You don't know what kind of bacteria it is. It's shocking to me how many people I see try to do laundry bare hands, and it's you don't want to mess with that stuff. Some sort of disinfectant spray, whether that's to clean out your travel bags, make sure you're cleaning out your hampers. I've seen people bring a hamper, dirty clothes in, put it in the wash, put it in the dryer, and then they put it back in that dirty hamper and take it back to the locker room. And if you haven't disinfected that hamper, then you're kind of defeating the purpose. So gloves and disinfectant.
Awesome. And finish with Andy.
I would start, the first thing you would need in a laundry room is a really good programmable washer. When you're either when you're building a facility or remodeling, get the best programmable washer you can. There's a lot of stuff that we can do in the wash cycle, to make the wash longer, to create a soak cycle, to help us not have to hand treat as much. But then when we do have to hand treat, I really like white towels. Don't use your old Gatorade towels, because some chemicals can start to loosen that screen printing that's on those towels. So I like just an old white towel that's got a little grit to it that you can scrub the uniform. I really don't like brushes, because that can start to pill the uniform. You start to pill the little fat pieces of fabric, and that just makes the uniform look a little worse. And then the third thing I would add is a good work surface, to where you can lay out and treat your uniforms. You're not having to take it into your main equipment area. A solid surface, something that's either a stone or a stainless steel top that's not going to be affected by the chemicals that you're using. So you can lay something out to scrub.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. We'll jump into the next question. This we've talked about or hinted at it earlier, but Andy and Dale, I know it's been a bit, but how much have you charged or know of the fees with road laundry and laundry service, and is there a difference between conference, non-conference? We'll start with you, Andy, and work our way back through.
Yeah, it's been quite a while since, I think it was 50 or 75 bucks back in the day. You know, I've heard, upward as much as 150 to 300 bucks today. One thing I would suggest, figure out how your university can pay cash. You know, don't have to write a check, because that just, you know, creates problems for everyone. So if there's some sort of fund that you can take cash from to hand the person, that helps out things.
Clifton, would you join in?
Yeah, I would say cash, but I know the people in my business office want a receipt for that, and they don't want a handwritten one. So that's part of the conversation that you have, like I mentioned before, the 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time. How much is it going to cost me? And how do you want payment? And can you provide a receipt? Those are the biggest things. We don't have a whole lot of people coming through our place looking to get laundry done. So it's kind of a case by case basis. If we have 5 people a year asking us for laundry from outside, that's a lot. But like I said, when we're on spring trip and stuff, we're paying whatever the going rate is. The one nice thing is that both our baseball and softball team have 4 uniforms. So you're only having to do it once, thank goodness, while they're gone, which makes a big difference in that process. But definitely find out what you're working with before you send people on the road.
Awesome. Thanks, Clifton. Matthew, would you mind chiming in?
Yeah, Clifton hit a good point there with receipts. We've been able to just kind of get away with typing something up, or getting a template online. In our business office, every school I've been at, it's always been fine with that. Here, we're not charging for laundry, whether it's conference or non-conference. We kind of just, conference will be here, they'll be there. So we, hopefully can, it's all a wash. If it's, again, late at night or on a weekend where we got to pay a student to come in, then we might encounter those situations. But for the most part, we try to just help other teams out when they're here and hope that they'll help us out when we're there.
Awesome. Dale, do you have anything to add to the conversation?
Kind of the same thing with receipts. Some places are okay with a handwritten receipt. Some has to be some sort of official university documentation receipt, that type deal. So that can get kind of hairy, whether it's cash or whatever. As far as conference versus non-conference, it kind of depends. Obviously, some of your bigger conferences and, with bigger schools with larger budgets have no problem. Oh, $200, no problem. Whereas some schools for smaller conferences kind of bat an eye at that. After a while, a lot of times, especially early on in the baseball and softball season, when you've got tournaments going on and you may have some smaller schools, it's easier to say, hey, we'll do it as a free service. If you want to tip us, that's fine. And yet again, if it's a sport that has the conference tournament on campuses, that kind of a lot of times evolves into, hey, it's a free service we provide. I mean, if you have 6 or 8 teams come in, you may have 3 teams do it. But yeah, for a conference tournament, it's kind of a service you provide for the most part. And yet again, if you want to tip us, you can, that type deal.
Thanks, Dale. A question came in real quick on this topic. Does anybody have to sign off a waiver for anybody either asking to do laundry, or do you guys use a waiver for requests like that? Anybody?
At Wisconsin, when we go to like a bowl, I have to have them sign a W-9 to cut a check to them.
Okay.
I can tell you this: if I'm sending my stuff to Spencer out at Eastern Washington, I'm make sure he signs something in blood. No, I've never asked for anything to be signed. I've never gone back after somebody because, like I said, if they do what I asked them to do and don't dry it, I figure I can get it out when it gets back here. So you'd like to think that by working it out with them ahead of time and you trust that they're doing what you ask them to do, I'd like to think that they would care so little about our stuff that they would just bake it and then say, here it is, So once again, I mean, whether you're red and white or black and orange or whatever, we do the same thing. I would not want to do that to somebody else because I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that call, and nor would I want to have to make that call.
Great point.
Excuse me, Josh, the bowl game is a little bit different deal. Especially if you're going to be there for a week and you're asking someone to do laundry, 6, 7 straight nights. And they're having to do practice pants and loops and jerseys and towels, all that stuff. Yet again, it's kind of that W-9 kind of comes in because a lot of times that's a little bit more cash than someone wants to carry around. So the university may want to cut them a check. And yet again, that W-9 does come into effect there.
Good point. Thanks, Dale. Another question I missed. Those of you that, I don't know if any of you hosted any regionals or a lot of teams coming to campus for a weekend or something like that. How are you handling, 4+ teams on campus and doing the laundry for an event like that? Any of you have an experience on that, or how you're organizing when it's done and when they can pick up and all that good stuff?
Josh, my experience back in my days is being full-time. You had 4 teams and usually had a couple of interns or maybe some students that you could trust. Give each of them a team. Hey, you got this team. It's baseball mostly. And somebody obviously is going to do 2 games because you got 2 in queue, and then you got something like that. But basically spread it out so you're not working one person to death doing laundry all weekend. Yet again, it's kind of one of those, you don't really charge them per se. A lot of coaches will say, hey man, here's, thanks for taking care of us. Here's a couple of hundreds or whatever, take care of you that way. But the main thing is to spread it out because, regional softball, regional baseball, you're putting in long hours. You don't want to add 6-8 hours to an already long day, but just delegate, have a good crew that can help you out if possible.
Anybody else have any feedback on that?
Yeah, they've done something recently in the Ivy League, Josh, where they'll have 4 teams come and play. The one nice thing is that only 2 of them are advancing. So like for field hockey or for volleyball or basketball, whatever. So you're only doing 2 teams wash between the first game and the second game. And that's just, once again, you're setting it up ahead of time. It's done through a conference call. You just tell that other team, hey, listen, game gets over at 3:00. We'll pick up the laundry from the locker room at 4:00, have it ready for us. And then it'll be in your locker room when you get there the next day or 2 days later or whatever for the conference championship. So I think it's one of those things where it's better in this position to over communicate than under communicate, because then you hash out all the difficulties or the differences of opinions and you get it more on terms that you can handle in your room than being dictated as to how to handle it.
Awesome. Great advice.
See, another thing, Josh, if you have multiple laundry facilities, utilize those. And if at all possible, make sure they're all kind of set up the same so that, when the first game ends and, hey, I can wash at this facility and you can go wash at that facility. That way you're not backed up all night using one facility for 4 different teams. That's another thing. And like I said, keep them all the same so everybody's getting washed pretty much the same way.
Cool. This question mainly for Clifton and Matt. Dale, you can chime in too if you have something. How are you handling students doing laundry? Are you trusting them with that? Are you or do you focus on a full-time person? And what kind of teaching are you doing with your laundry as far as the students are concerned? So we'll start with you, Clifton, and go to Matt.
We haven't had student workers since COVID. And pre-COVID, we had students that worked and they only handled the loops. We're trying to get that started back up again. We finally got the university to approve that. So we'll have to have a kind of a laundry for dummies kind of crash course for them before they get started. But it's pretty easy. I mean, Dale and Terry both know, it's either a 4 or 5 wash You throw it in the dryer for 45 minutes, pull it out, put it back in the right hamper and move along. It's pretty self-explanatory. But yeah, we never let anybody other than our full-time people handle the actual uniforms themselves, just because of the fact that we don't want to have to worry about the risk involved with that. It's just too expensive to trust it to a kid. Like to Dale's point earlier, they're going to just throw it in the dryer and let it bake. And so.
Thanks, Clifton. Matt, do you have any feedback on this one?
Pretty much same thing as Clifton. We have student workers here who, we have a student scheduled every night from like 4:30 or 5 to 8:30, however long it takes to get the teams here in the arena done. But it's all loops. They're not touching uniforms. So uniforms I'll do myself. And anything uniforms, I'm packing them, I'm steaming them, I'm doing the laundry on them. But it is a huge help to have all the students doing the laundry every night. As far as training, I typed up very detailed, like a full page, again, over explaining every single step on how to collect the loops, how to wash them, how to dry them, how to put them back, what order to do things in. It's posted right next to the laundry machines. I also put it on a Google Doc and shared it with all of them. So they have, whether they want to look at a paper copy for a quick reference or have it on their phone, showed them in person, obviously didn't just type a paper up and say, here you go. I know over at football, Dale and Blake have a big team of students who will also do all the loops. So having student workers is great, especially for just that everyday night laundry. But I'm still the one doing the uniforms.
Dale or Andy, do you guys have any feedback on this? Oh, it's been a bit.
With me, having students do practice laundry, no biggie there. They can, practice gear is not that big of a deal. You want full-time people doing your game laundry. However, pretty much everybody on this Zoom was a student manager at one point, and you had to learn how to do laundry at some point. Don't be the full-time guy that I'm gonna do it all by myself. Have a couple of students there to teach them how, because sounding like my dad, the students now are the future of us. Someone taught us how to do it. So don't just kick them out on game night because it's game laundry. Let them learn how to do it. Let them learn from, a quote expert, if you would. They're there to learn, teach them something, and they may be able to teach someone else at some point,
Thanks, Dale. Andy, you have any?
No, I kind of echo what Dale said. Full-time person should be doing it, but especially if you have students who are interested in joining this as a full-time profession, bring them under your wing and have them do them side by side with you. That way you can mentor them a little bit.
Perfect. Thanks, Andy. What are some common mistakes you guys seen as we come up on time? This will be our kind of the last question here. What are some common mistakes people make when it comes to laundry that you see? Dale, we'll start with you and I'll work our way back.
As I said earlier, the one I used to do, just, treat 50, 60 jerseys ahead of time and then wash them. Wash it first, let the machine and the chemicals do the work, and then sort them, hang the good ones, the bad ones, put them off to the side and treat them. But the main thing is, like I said, wash it, then treat it. And then, the drying process. You never dry game uniforms, because as we've said multiple times, once you dry it, it's pretty much baked in there.
And Clifton?
I would say the only common mistake that I see that hasn't been talked about is color setting. Color set those uniforms, because I see Dale nodding his head. I mean, the worst thing you can do is not color set and then wonder why they bled. So it's definitely something that we haven't really touched on that I would say you definitely need to do. And if Dale and Andy want to talk a little bit more about that process, feel free. But that I think we've hit most of the other stuff.
I'm going to jump in for a second. The color set, yes, but for multiple reasons. a lot of these uniforms are made overseas in places that aren't exactly, I mean, they're not made in operating rooms. I've taken stuff out of the package, throw it in the washing machine, and the water with white uniform, the water just turned a dirty brown color because of the nastiness on those uniforms. I've seen people just pull uniforms out, hang them, and give them to a kid to wear the next day. You never want to do that. It doesn't matter what color it is. You want to wash that stuff, whether you're color setting or just washing it, you get the nastiness off. Wash it before you wear anything. I do that with towels, all that stuff,
Great advice. Matthew, can you chime in? Do you have any advice here?
Pretty much what everyone just said, just echoing all of that. Color setting is huge. I'll pre-wash everything. The biggest mistake I see, just common, is drying stains and over drying things. That's not it's an easy mistake to avoid, but it's a very common one that I see. So equipment's not hard, it's just detail oriented. So you just have to make sure you're focused and doing the right things.
That was a really good nugget. Thanks, Matthew. Andy, do you have anything to add to the last one here?
Yeah. Talk to your uniform manufacturer, see if they've changed anything in the materials. All three or four of the major manufacturers are always pushing the needle on materials. We're starting to see a lot more recycled materials, recycled nylons, plastics that are being made into nylon. Ask them what they've seen. Mostly a lot from they won't know anything beforehand, but they'll know it from other schools. A lot of things start in NFL, NBA, and then second year it comes to college. So ask them for advice. When it comes to color setting, what we typically do, we'll do a 25-minute cold wash with a chemical. In the old days, it used to be a kosher salt or a white distilled vinegar. We've actually come up with a product for color setting. But talk to your chemical company, see what they recommend as far as color setting. Like I said, we do a 25-minute cold wash and then several rinses. And then I would tell people, go ahead and wash your uniforms on whatever cycle you're going to run. You're going to be washing them on after the game, just to make sure that there's nothing in that wash that's going to change them. It's a lot easier to get things straightened up before the first game when you're also dealing with stains than it is afterwards when you got to get grass out, then you got to figure out how to get the pink out. But talk to your chemical supplier. We've seen a lot. We can point you in the right direction, and we've got some other tips that we've got that we can pass on.
Thanks, Andy.
One thing I just want to say on that, how he brought up, he specified kosher salt. I saw Kevin on the comment discussion board here. It said adding salt. Got him. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andy or Dale, but it does have to be kosher because it's something with the polarities where like the iodized salt doesn't have the same effect with all of that, if I remember correctly. I know I'm probably saying it wrong. Will the chemical expert comment on?
Correct. You do want to use kosher salt because the iodized salt has been treated.
Thanks, guys. That's it for today. Real quick, I do want to open up Jalen, wherever you are. Jalen had a few things to say, and here's your QR code for you guys to scan. So get your phones out. This is everyone can see everyone's cool phone cases now. So go ahead and get that going and have a great Christmas holiday time for everybody, and look forward to seeing everyone here after the new year. Go ahead, Jalen.
Josh, thanks again for all you do to help put this on each month and for facilitating it. You do a great job with it and greatly appreciate it. Matthew, Dale, Andy, Clifton, appreciate you guys being on today. Katie did a wonderful job with this panel. I thought this was I enjoyed this call. I think this is my favorite one we've done so far in the last year and a half. It was very informative. Dale, you were telling some things that were giving me flashbacks. I know Dell remember this one. I think y'all hit it there really hard about communicating when you go on the road and making sure you communicate how you want your stuff done. I would throw in, don't just assume because you're the visiting team that the home team's gonna do it for you. Communicate. And remember, I know Dale remembers we had a midweek Tuesday night game, and I was leaving the next morning at 8 a.m. flying out to Texas for the weekend trip. And the game went, we had an hour and a half rain delay. The game didn't end till 1 a.m. So I had to get our laundry turned around and ready to go by 8 a.m. And at 2 a.m. that morning, the visiting team coach calls me, and not reached out at any point throughout the week, but called at 2 a.m. asking what time I was coming to pick up his laundry. I told him the only way I was picking that up is if he paid me $300, and he did not like that. And we had some good words over the phone, and then he hung up. So yeah, don't just assume. Make sure you're communicating. Clifton really hit the nail on the head on that one. Communicate. But in closing, guys, I had 122 people on this call today at one point. That's awesome. That's the largest attendance we've had on one of these. Continues to grow. Katie, Josh doing a great job of helping promote it. Anthony Martin, if you're on the call, thank you for all you do to promote it on the social media platforms. You do a great job with that, and thank you for all your work with that. And once again, Dale, Matthew, Andy, Clifton, thank you so much for all your insight and wisdom today. You did a great job, guys. I'm gonna give Melly, if you're still on the call, if you would like to say anything in closing, please do. But everybody have wonderful holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. Everybody have a wonderful holiday season. Hope you get some time to rest. Melly, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, everybody. There's a great panel. We had great turnout. Everyone, I hope you have a really nice holiday break. Please read the new newsletter that's coming out. There's some really good articles in there. There's a little letter from me. I appreciate it. ISS, thank you so much. I can't tell you how many times I've called them in the middle of the night. Also, one thing that wasn't mentioned, when I'm spraying, I don't spray chemicals anymore. I use a paintbrush because I don't like breathing in the fumes. So if you are spraying, make sure you're maybe wearing a mask of some sort. That might be wise as well, and also well-ventilated room and heat. I use a teapot, an electric teapot, and that saved me so many times. Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you for putting this together. I don't want to keep anybody any longer. And everyone, please have a really, really good rest of your December. Go Cats.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.